Hey, welcome all. Coleman Report Live, January 9th edition. I am on the road. I'm in actually Columbia, South Carolina. We did our secondary market yesterday. We got a ton of news. You know how to ask questions. The certificates. For those of you who are new, you can download those. Please keep track of those. That answers the question for SBA and your regulator and what you're doing for training. Big news. Senate on Tuesday confirmed Administrator Carranza 88 to 5. Are you surprised by that vote? Lance, I'll start with you.
Bob, I am surprised because it seemed like the Democrats and Republicans cannot agree on anything, but they found something to agree on.
Yeah. I'm actually surprised. I put me down in the surprise category. That's a nice bipartisan, or as our keynote speaker from the Senate staff said, bicameral decision. And so I'm glad to see those results. Someone was asked the question, the 5 negative votes, do you think that's a negative on Administrator Carranza? And the consensus was no.
I'm blown away that it was only, I'm not blown away that she was
confirmed,
not at all, but I'm blown away that there were only 5 no's.
Well, in our toxic Washington environment, so am I. So I think that's great news for her. That gives her legitimacy, gives the program legitimacy, and it also showing commitment by both sides of the aisle. As Renee Bender said in her keynote speech, hey, you know, what's better than supporting small business? We want to support small business and we want to support SBA's lending programs. We'll talk about that more in a second. Obviously, it was secondary market, and the consensus is premiums are going to drop by 1 point, and that's not a consensus. That's Bob Judge's opinion. And the question is, do you agree with him or not?
You know, Bob, I think it's a hard call, but
well, of course it is.
Bob Judge is a smart man, so.
Yeah, I would tend. I have no issue with any of those answers. If you've answered no, you may think it goes down further or a little bit higher. I don't know I'm probably in the I don't know category, but I have nothing having an issue with agreeing with Mr. Judge. And finally, go ahead, Lance.
I was just going to ask, what was his projection for prepays?
Prepays are going to be going up a little bit, but remember, because of refinancing, he's not so much concerned about defaults, but he's saying in a lower, people really want to refinance, especially these larger loans into fixed rate, these larger SBA 7A loans into fixed rate products. And so they're going to go up, but that's why he's saying he thinks the market's a little overheated and will drop by one point. But again, if we're selling at 112, 1 point isn't that big of a difference to you on your bottom line. So,
that's true.
All right, think about this one. There's no right answer. But she has huge challenges. And what do you think her biggest challenge is? Obviously, all of these are correct answers, but I'd like to know which one is more correct than the other ones and what you think.
And Bob, you're right on point. Every one of these could be correct. When I look at IT technology, wish we were using SBA 1 more robustly. We need
Lance, Lance, I asked the question of SBA. I said, hey, where are we in SBA 1? And they tap danced around it. Well, nothing wrong with that because there's really no good answer. But they admit right now SBA 1 is not where they want it, and they're using E-Tran more and more. So they need to resolve, are they going to be an SBA 1 shop or an E-Tran shop? So that's there. The new SOP, it was very clear that we have the new SOP. They wanted to wait until they had the new administrator. Diana Seaborn said one of the commitments that she's making as Office of Financial Assistance is that her commitment is to not release a notice or release a new SOP and say effective immediately. So the consensus is pretty well done. Lance and I were talking beforehand. Lance, what's your guess? I'll defer to you.
My best guess is we'll probably see it in February, and it'll be like the previous SOP. I don't, guys, when the 5010 5K came out, it was released and then made effective April 1. So maybe they'll follow that same path. We'll see the SOP in February, and it'll be effective in April.
One of the things that we were concerned about, obviously, is credit elsewhere. We were hoping that that was going to be in the new SOP. It's not. It's in the proposed rule that came out last year in the Senate and the House. I've never heard this term before, Lance. It's called the four corners. And the four corners are the minority and ranking member, the majority and ranking member on both the House and Senate Small Business Committee. And these four work diligently to come up with bipartisan solutions. Well, one of the solutions was they wanted to wait for the affiliation rules and the credit elsewhere clarifications until after the new administrator was confirmed. And and there are 5,000 comments that staff and her have to go through. So we were hoping this is going to be resolved by the end of last year. Obviously, it's not, Lance. And the reason why we put maker smaller loans, that is always an interest by Congress, both sides of the parties, and even though they also want to increase the size of that express program. That's in the new rule as well.
Well, Bob, you know I'm a proponent for every SBA lending institution that for every big loan you do, loan over $2 million, that you have a smaller one. You need diversity in your loan portfolio, not only in industry types, but you need diversity in loan size. So yes, there needs to be more smaller SBA loans. I really wish that SBA, I know Express is streamlined, but if I had a wish list, Bob, not only would I like to see Express bumped up to $1 million, but I would love to see it even further streamlined for the participant banks. I think that would encourage us to do more smaller SBA loans.
Yeah. Joseph, put the results back up, please. Any numbers stick out at you, Lance?
Not really. I mean, they're all over the board. I could make a case for every one of these.
Absolutely.
So I'm not surprised that the answers were spread out. Now, the 50-10-6, it's important to all of us. I don't, Bob, and as you shared, there's not going to be any earth-shattering changes, I think, in the 50-10-6. And you just told me, Bob, I was hoping for some credit elsewhere clarification, and we may not get it until the rule.
We're not going to get it. We're not going to get it in the SOP. We're not going to get affiliation in the SOP. It's not going to happen this time around, which is unfortunate for the industry, because those are, we want guidance. We want guidance.
Credit elsewhere, Bob, is confusing because having been in SBA lending for a long time, like both of us have, credit elsewhere, you have to prove that they can't get it elsewhere, but you also still want to make a great loan. So
right, but it's also confusing. It's also confusing to Congress. They don't have, and one of the things they want to do is they want to come up, as we said, with the bipartisan solution of what exactly is the definition of credit elsewhere. So in this case, it starts there, that they need to decide what it is. And obviously different senators have different opinions. Hey, let's go to the news. We talked about the confirmation, the senators voting against her, were Gillibrand, Harris, Markey, Merkley, and Wyden. I'm not, and of course, there were several non-voting senators who just simply voted president or who were out on the campaign trail. I'm not too excited about any one of. I'm not too concerned because there's only 5. That's my opinion. Yeah. Let's go to the next page. Mary Mims, congratulations, Signature Bank, longtime government guarantee specialist. We were proud to induct her into the Hall of Fame. And for those of you who know Mary and work with her, well deserved. And this is a fun part of our job. Bob Judge and I and Marty Techler were the 3 partners on this conference when we get together. and we get to honor someone on that. And Mary's retiring. She made that announcement. So this is well timed for her.
Hey, Bob, quick comment, not to break out of the news. Had a conversation with a participant lender the other day, and they were talking about the aging SBA lending professionals throughout the country and the problem that that's going to create 5 years down the road. And, I said, and I'm going to be quick, Bob, but I think about myself. I've got another, maybe 7 years, 8 years left. And there are a lot of great SBA participant lending professionals that are the same way. We need something that generates new, up and coming SBA lending professionals.
Well, that's why we're obviously committed to the training. That's why you're giving back and you're committing to the training. Renee Bender did a great keynote speak. She gave us a lot of inside baseball. So that was a fun presentation. The good news is I'm not going to explain this to you because Bob Judge puts this up every year. We have quants, and there's quants in the room. This stuff goes over my head. I know it went over Katie and Joseph's head. But it's if you really want to get behind the numbers, it's fun to watch that. And he's talking about pools. He's got a lot of good background information, and he goes back for 20 years. So don't worry. I won't explain this to you. If you want to know more about this, and Katie's going to be writing about it. Katie, how many articles did you come up with yesterday?
We've probably got at least 6 in there, probably more.
So we'll be going more into this in depth, and but it's the science behind the numbers, which is fun to a point, and it's fun listening to Bob. Bob's definitely one of the smartest people out there tracking this stuff.
Hey, Bob, I'm getting a headache. It's reminding me of my advanced statistical analysis final in 1983.
Now, we'll issue this. This is interesting, and this, I think, is a very useful tool. It tells you what the buckets are and what the premiums are on loan size. And so we'll explain this later, but this is a very useful tool that I would get to your CFO, I think, for strategy issues, and you can see where the premium prices are and where they line in. And we'll get this out next week. And there we go. And we have a borrower that is doing leasehold improvements for a chiropractor office lands, and they started purchasing items for the new building to use towards equity injection. As for the address of the invoice, the ship to address is their current business address. I don't think that we would be able to show the new office space, given that this is proof of cash injection. Lance, what do we do in this situation?
I don't see a big issue, Bob. Just slap a memo on it that explains because the new office is not there yet, that they're having it shipped to a different address. But I don't really see a real big problem. I think the important thing is that you are properly documenting your equity injection with paid invoices. And if it's showing the current address, not the new address, that's fine. Put a memo on it.
Do we need to have a canceled check?
I would absolutely want a canceled check. My disbursements department at the bank always, we'll do draws for borrowers, and they will beat me down, Bob, for a canceled check.
Yeah, and the reason why is anybody can make up a Photoshop invoice and stamp paid on it. So I think we need to go to the next level to see where the funds came from, whether it's a credit card, which is legit, or a check or wire transfer or whatever. Or even how let's say we buy something at auction for cash. What do we do with that, Lance?
Well, a paid invoice is what's important there. You've got to have a paid invoice, and you don't see very many cash transactions, Bob, but on occasion you will.
Yeah, just document it and do that. Okay, let's go to the next slide, please. We are pleased to announce John Croft and Teresa Harrell as our 2 Main Street lenders of the year. Katie, we're going to be announcing 8 more over the next, 8 days?
I think you said 7 or 8 days, yeah.
There they are. These are the categories And again, this is a fun exercise. Thank you all for submitting your nominations. And we enjoy doing this and recognize the professionals. And Lance, you were talking about the aging of our workforce, and look at the second to the bottom category. Remember, we're very committed on recognizing those lenders under 40 years old.
Yeah, we need a robust number of applications, a robust number of people. Again, we need good young SBA professionals.
This is a preview of what Katie's going to be writing about on Monday. Katie, I'm not going to read this thing. Just give us an overview.
So in 2018, the SBA organized a strategic performance plan, and that performance plan continues on until 2022. And so within that, each year, they create about 10 goals that they're going to try to reach within that year. And of course, this started when the fiscal year started, but most of them they're really implementing in 2020. Just some highlights, though. You can see the very top one. They're trying to increase the number of jobs supported by capital assistance programs. They're trying to just build, really, they've got 4 different categories here. All these can be broken down into 4, and that's focusing on revenue and job growth, small business friendly environments, disaster recovery, and strengthening the SBA program. And so that's what all these are. They're just their goals for this year. And to reach those goals, they are going to be implementing some new strategies. And those strategies can be found actually in the article that was written on January 8th, and that's on our website.
We also have, this is obviously the blueprint for Administrator Carranza. Lance, Katie, we found out yesterday, she's going to be called back to the Senate and the House within 60 days to tell them what her blueprint is. So she definitely has a lot of work cut out for her.
And there's no doubt, Bob, she's going to take the position and have to immediately prepare for facing the House and Senate. I feel for her.
Yeah, no, I mean, and talk about a steep learning curve. And obviously, senators and House members tend to beat up administration officials from time to time. Fortunately, not as bad as in SBA as other agencies, but they're going to ask us some tough questions.
They will. They will.
Friday, what's going on Friday? Katie, what you write about for Friday?
So last week we released this article. It's about 3 men who were sentenced for defrauding CB&T Citibank of $5 million. And that's the bank president, McDonald Hardin, and 2 others. It wasn't clear who they are, if they're involved in the bank as well, or if they were clients. What they did was they convinced their family members to sign up for loans, and then they changed the names on those loans and got the funds for themselves, used them to buy cars and houses. All of the information on those loans were wrong. They're for the wrong people, and they were just taking in all that money.
You know, and I always talk to people about Fraud Friday, and the sad thing is, what's their exit strategy? And the reality is these fraudsters do it once, and they say, hey, this is easy money. It's not. They don't do a one hit and run. It's continuing criminal enterprise.
Yeah, I don't know how they do that, Bob. But my first job out of college, guys, was a FDIC liquidator, and the first project I worked on was a case, Katie, similar to this. But I'm old enough that the Fraud Fridays back when I got out of college were much smaller than these multi-million-dollar deals.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there was a fraud, and when I started as a bank, it was $5,000, and everybody just went ballistic over $5,000 fraud.
Bob, the first bank that I helped close with FDIC was a $20 million bank.
Yeah, very good. And that's our training courses coming up. We've announced a webinar on assisted living. Do we have a webinar on assisted living, Joseph? Page?
No, it'll be announced.
What day did we decide we're going to do that, Joseph?
I'm not.
Anyway, we'll take a look at that, and we'll get Lance's webinars out on servicing and liquidation as soon as possible. And with that, do we have any questions, guys?
We're clear.
Okay. Thank you all very much. Enjoyed talking to you live from Columbia. And I will be back in Southern California next Thursday. Thanks a lot.
Have a great weekend.